It's a toxic nightmare in Ohio. The lack of answers on that catastrophic train derailment is infuriating residents who are too scared to go back into their homes. And officials are not doing much to convince people it's actually safe to return. The videos coming out of the town are horrific. Fish, chickens, and other animals are turning up dead or becoming extremely ill. And the people wonder if they're next.
Constant smell of burning plastics and chemicals in the air. Issues with our dog, vomiting, acting lethargic.
The fish are dying, so how am I supposed to feel safe bathing my children, cooking with any of it?
I can't stay in the town longer than an hour before I have a giant migraine.
I do not feel anywhere in this town is safe.
We basically nuked the town with chemicals so we could get a railroad open.
I mean, when you watch people that are investigating, they all have these giant hazmat suits on. But somehow it's safe for people to go back to these homes.
Dana putting Biden's EPA boss on the spot after he insisted there's nothing wrong with the city's water.
Would you return to these homes now? Would you feel comfortable bathing your children in the water or drinking that water?
Based on the results of those homes that have been tested, if those test results have come back and said that the air quality is okay and the water is okay, I would remain in my home and I would drink the water. But there are some homes that have not been tested for water quality. And for those homes, they should continue to use bottled water until the state comes in and tests that water.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine was asked the same question on if he would return and gave a pretty revealing answer. Listen.
I would be drinking the bottled water, and I would be continuing to find out what the tests were showing as far as the air. I would be alert and concerned, but I think I would probably be back in my house.
And Mayor Pete's not off the hook. There's a big town hall tonight in Palestine where residents are going to be able to grill officials for answers. And the congressman there is promising to save a seat for the transportation secretary. Dana, so nice job with the EPA guy. What was your read on his level of honesty?
I didn't think he was being dishonest, but I think that what we found in the morning was like that was in the 10 o'clock hour. In the 9 o'clock hour, we interviewed the congressman from that area, Republican Bill Johnson, and I asked him, are you satisfied with how the Biden administration is doing? And he said, yes, from what I'm hearing on the ground, the federal government is doing what it needs to do. We're getting the resources that we need. I don't know if the problem is at the state level, but what I did feel that the EPA administrator understood but doesn't know how to deal with is the lack of trust from the community about the data. He's saying that the tests are saying that it's fine, but the people actually don't believe that. And the people who are there, as you saw from our reporting, they're saying that they are getting headaches, they're uncomfortable, or they have children that they're afraid to put in the bathtub. I understood that. But when I heard that, because you can get bottled water and drink bottled water, I can understand that. That's an expense, but you can do that. But when the woman said she was afraid to bathe her children, that really struck home to me because I don't know how that fear leaves. And then later on in the day, Martha McCallum had an interview with this young woman who said she doesn't necessarily trust the data. And what she's really worried about is she's worked hard, she saved up her money, she bought a home. And now she's afraid that that investment is going to be worthless. And that's really sad.
You can't blame Americans for not believing what the government tells them, Greg, at this point.
Why isn't the government telling them to wear masks? I mean, doesn't this seem a little bit more dangerous? But they're not. They're not. Everything's fine. Why do we have federal government? It's to manage the big national crises and wars. Basically, it's catastrophic insurance, you know? But the welfare state changed everything. We went from America the fireman to America the nanny, and a crappy one at that. Instead of being capable of addressing national crises, we're talking about meaningless ones like, you know, what ethnicity is the construction worker? Do the flight attendants have non-binary uniforms? This White House reminds me of the last Blockbuster, right? It's got some empty store with a manager half asleep in the back, clock watching between meals, no idea what's going on, and absolutely no customer service. If you want help from the government, they only pick up your call if you owe them money, right? They'll help you to your wallet. But when this happens, where are they? They have no answers. They have no answers for anything, right? They're like a paid escort. They're only into you if they can get into your wallet. Imagine if they were in power during COVID. at the start, there would have been no Operation Warp Speed, not at all. And I'm saying that with hesitation about the vax for some people, but overall, that was a pretty amazing thing. Never would have happened with these guys. These guys are so slow, it's ridiculous.
Geraldo, here's a soundbite from Erin Brockovich. You remember she was famous for this movie, kind of similar situation with the environment. Let's listen and you can react.
By not showing up, by not addressing this, that a national train derailment of very hazardous information. You do nothing but create a vacuum of an upset community, a misinformed community, a distrusting community, and it adds to rumors, speculation, losing trust, and a lot of theories. Act like you care about what's going on in your backyard in this country.
Geraldo.
She's great because she speaks very frankly. What you have is two beats going on here, Jess. You got the expert beat and you got the local beat. Now, you got to go with your gut. You have a baby and you have another baby on the way. Would you allow your little ones to be around that environment? What is your instinctive reaction? You're not an expert in toxicity or in the environment or this or that, but you love your children and you have a instinctive reaction. The instinctive reaction when I see that plume of black, ugly smoke is, what the hell? I'm not going to take my baby here. And I think that's the problem. I like Mike DeWine. I know him. He's an honest guy, but he doesn't live there. You know, Johnson, the congressman Dana mentioned, was on the program this morning. He lives there, and I like his tempo, but still, I'm not bringing my kids around there. And I feel for those parents with limited means. Their whole life is invested in their homes. They have mortgages. Now their homes are basically worthless. What happens to them? How will they be compensated? But trust your gut. Trust your instinct. Never, ever, listen to an expert, drink the water, then regret it later.
Yeah, when the experts are telling you not to trust your gut, that's where the lack of trust comes in.
You know, the issue is, why are we constantly begging for answers? I mean, why are the public servants who work for us not out there giving us answers? Why are they not on the ground? Why is DeWine not and I like DeWine too, he's a good guy, but why isn't he on the ground in Palestine? Why is Buttigieg not on the ground? Why is FEMA not on the ground? Now, FEMA wasn't on the ground because they weren't asked in. I don't know what that's about. But, what you've got are people saying 20 miles away, they can still smell it. That tells me that there are problems from the Ohio River and all the tributaries, and I talked about this yesterday. But the truth is that this train, with all of the damage that we're seeing, and that no one has yet had a grip on, because how do you establish that the EPA says it's safe or not safe? What solutions have they come up with? What tests have they done in 10 days? Give me a break. And the truth is that this train was not designated as having hazardous material because of the lobbyists in Washington who allow this amount of hazardous material on a train. And so, as one of the residents said, they nuked a town so that they could get a railroad to keep going. This is about the politicians in Washington not being on the ground, for us demanding answers and not getting them, whether it's about a balloon or this. And it's about people saying, oh, you're okay, and forgetting about you. And the truth is, they should be on the front lines, and they're not. And it's not safe. And until someone is willing to write it down, you get your family out of there.
You know what's interesting about this story, though, that I actually have to pay a compliment to social media. I think that's where everybody heard about it.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't from the government, didn't say anything, and everybody kept going. All of a sudden on Twitter, you're seeing these pictures, and you're going, and we're skeptical about every picture we see now. Who knows? It could be doctored. It could be from another era. But it's like, and all of a sudden it happens, and then it's true, and then the government is running after social media, trying to catch up. It's kind of interesting.
We noticed that today in preparing for the America's Newsroom show and the Michael Regan interview, that you just go on U.S. EPA Twitter page to say, like, what are they talking about? And they have a pinned tweet, the one up at the top, is about this disaster. It is. But everything else after that was like Valentine's Day, how great it is to work at the EPA, et cetera. Today, though, this afternoon, they've been tweeting like a storm.
Of course.
You know, but they give all kinds of money for hurricanes and floods. Why isn't there federal money now for these people to move?
Well, there should be, but Governor DeWine has to ask FEMA to come in, and he hasn't done it yet. Maybe he thinks it's not necessary, but
I don't think he should be thinking that unless he's a scientist.
One last quick point.
Yes.
The railroads the rails themselves are in woeful condition. 15% of the derailments are because of cracked rails. We have to pay attention to the railroads. The railroads keep this country going. They are really the artery in this country.
Well,
we need
sure spent a lot on infrastructure.
Pipelines.
Maybe that could go there.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.